This is the Cafe Racer Podcast, episode 146 for July 15th, 2019. I'm Crash.
And I'm sitting on a sofa.
So I just saw a little notification when I went live with the Hangout. We knew that Google Hangouts was on its way out, but apparently they now have a date. It's August 1st, so this might be the last Google Hangout episode. It might not. We might get in one before then, but we will be transitioning to some other medium of video recording, I guess.
I don't know if we're going to stay with YouTube or
I don't know.
Something else.
We'll see. We'll be on the internet somewhere.
Do you know what the significance of me sitting on a sofa is?
No.
In all the years we've been doing this podcast, I've only recorded twice on a sofa.
Oh.
That was the very first time you and I recorded together.
Uh-huh.
And today.
That's like 5 years ago.
Yeah, maybe 5 or 6. I don't know.
Yeah, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I've recorded from my bed a couple of times, like sitting on it with my back up against the headboard.
Yeah, no, I've never done that. And I'm at a friend's house sitting. They're out of town, and I couldn't find a lot of my gear because I'm moving. So I've got the mic plugged in USB. I can't find my audio interface, and I'm still getting my other stuff set up. So
yeah,
it's kind of relaxed. I wish I had like a cocktail and some grapes or something. You know,
that'd be nice.
Yeah,
go like the full Caligula route.
Yeah, exactly. Caligula.
So let's see. We have a couple things. Well, we've got my trip, and then we're also at the end of the episode, or towards the end of the episode, going to reveal the winners of the Pelican case stuff. The 18-ounce vacuum sealed magic bottle of magicness and the R40 Ruck case. So we'll be talking about your wild and mild use cases for the case itself. But yeah, I went to AMA Vintage Motorcycle Days in the middle of freaking nowhere, Ohio.
And was it a very well run, calm?
It was. It was awesome. Like, if you haven't listened to the most recent episode of the Cleveland Moto podcast, I'm on that episode talking about it as well, and I have the audio from that, so I'm going to be releasing that episode onto our feed. But for those of you that prefer a cleaner telling of tales, you might want to avoid that one. That's a much swearier podcast than this one, and I rise to the occasion. So
thank you for the warning.
Yeah. But anywho, so I had a great time. Like, I got there on Tuesday, which meant I got there like 2 full days before we were actually going to be going. Well, almost 2 full days before we were actually going to the event. Phil's shop, Cleveland Moto, is about 10 minutes from the airport. So he was pretty busy. I took an Uber over, and a super cheap Uber over there, and then hung out with him and Bagel from the Motorcycle and Misfits podcast.
Oh, that's cool.
He was out there too. I gotta say, like, Bagel's dietary restrictions are hard. Like, he's very seriously doing a like low to no carb diet, and I guess he lost a ton of weight doing it. So like, that's awesome, and I totally support his mission. But at the same time, like, that has got to be rough. Like, watching him have to like deal with ordering food anywhere was very like painful. It's like, man, you can't have any of the fun shit.
Yeah, but you can get a salad and a steak pretty much anywhere, right?
Yeah, you would think. But he's also got like a pretty, he doesn't do onions. And so like, if a thing has onions in it, he'll pretty much avoid it. And we went to Porco, because if you go to visit Phil at Cleveland Moto and you don't go to Porco, then you didn't go visit Phil at Cleveland Moto. So we went to Porco and we got food, but like there was a couple things like their menu, I guess, didn't mention there was rice in the burrito. So he's like, "Hey, can you guys make the burrito just in like a bowl?" And they're like, "Yeah, no problem." So they bring it out, and he's like, "Oh, there's a bunch of rice in it, and you didn't mention it on your menu." And rice is carbs, so that's kind of a problem.
Right.
Um, and then we went to a meatball place called Pulpetta the next day, and he had a hard time. I guess like because almost all their meatballs had onions in them. Um,
Did you stay with Phil?
yeah, we both stayed with Phil. Tom went home, I think a day or two before I did, but yeah, we both stayed at Phil's place. Um,
When
and
you were at Porco, did you order one of those crazy drinks that they have?
I ordered several of those crazy drinks that they have. It's a tiki bar for crying out loud, and I tiki. I don't know that I would say that I tiki as hard as Phil, but reasonably. Like I'm up there. Like I I don't know. I don't think Phil was able to tell like because Phil comes to San Diego a lot. Um, we were talking about tiki bars in San Diego, and I don't think he named one that I haven't been to.
Right.
So yeah, I got I love tiki drinks. So yeah, Phil was like, "This is their one of the best drinks they make here." So we tried that. We tried a couple of other things. We had their nachos. I got some of their wings. It was a glutton
Every time he
gluttonous
describes those
evening.
drinks from Porco, they have like, a gallon of alcohol in them and a
Um,
couple ounces of flavoring.
yeah, well, like for example, a painkiller is like several different alcohols, but it's small quantities. So you end up with a drink that fits in like an old fashioned glass or
Oh,
whatever.
okay. So it's not like a
You
shot
know,
of each one of them.
no, not necessarily. If you get a zombie, be prepared to be,
A
reduced to
zombie.
undead. Like it was that we went back to Porco on my last night there. It was me and Phil and why can't I think of his name right now? Henry from the Misfits. Um,
Right.
yeah, so Henry was also there. Henry arrived later and then left, I think, after me. So yeah, we went again on Tuesday, but or the Tuesday or Monday night before I flew out, and I had a little bit of a hangover the next day. Not a
Mm.
lot. Like I wasn't super crazy because I knew we were going to Mid Ohio for one. I was like, and this is a marathon, not a sprint. So from an alcohol drinking point of view, we were basically consuming alcohol during the entirety of our waking hours while we were at the racetrack.
Did you
So
actually like barter for stuff with beer?
no, I never actually had to because we brought a big RV, like, and I mean huge. Like it was a Class A toy hauler, so you had above the toy hauler section, like above the garage, was a bed area, and that's where Phil slept. Above the driver's seat is also a bed that drops down. That's where I slept. The couch turns into a bed. That's where Cameron slept. The kitchen table area turns into a bed. Henry slept on the floor next to that because he's weird. And then in the garage was two like futons up against the wall that fold up on the wall so you can still put bikes and stuff in there. But then once you've emptied them out, you can drop them down and they actually become a king and a half size bed if you smush them together with this extra pad. But
Mm.
Oscar and Bagel stayed on them separate. Like you keep them apart. And then so they each stayed on those. So we had 5 people in a room in a RV that would have slept 12.
That's cool. Yeah.
It was incredible.
So I thought you were going to sleep in the back of the van.
No, no, we did not. We took the RV and Phil rented that thing on like this thing, a thing that's kind of like Airbnb. It's called RV Share.
Mm.
And so we brought that. We brought that with like 4 busted ass scooters in the back to just sell slash abandon. And then we brought a trailer behind that with some more sell slash abandon and then like a couple rideable things. Because one of the fun things about Mid Ohio is you can ride all over the grounds the whole time you're there, um, full redneck style Bud Light in hand, no helmet, flip flops. Well, I was one of the few people in flip flops. I had to like signal that I came from California, so I wore flip flops as much as possible. I mean, day one I was on the Zero FX dirt bike, and since it has no clutch, I grabbed a Bud Light from my left hand, and I was riding around the swap meet in muddish terrain, having a little Bud Light and window shopping. Phil also brought out somebody else drove out the Toyota Hiace. It's a right-hand drive Japanese domestic market minivan, and it's got 4-wheel drive, and it's lifted a little bit. It's like lifted 4 or 5 inches, and it's got more aggressive tires on it.
That's cool.
And since it's East Coast area, or East Coast-ish, so it gets humid and it rained and all that sort of stuff, but then it also got unbelievably hot. So while everybody else is rolling around in their golf carts or their scooters or walking, we're driving up and down the lanes of the swap meet in this little minivan with air conditioning blasting and, shopping for stuff as we do it. Phil jumped out and bought a Honda Dream that was owned by this like land speed record guy that was in his like 70s or 80s. And later on, I ended up buying a Honda Dream, another one from somewhere else in the swap meet, with the intention of like, cool, it runs, it has a title. I'm going to ride it around the show, put another for sale sign on it, see if I can make even $100 more than I paid for it. And then if I don't, then I'll bring it home and I was thinking about giving it to my friend Darian, because she's always like, she has her motorcycle license, but she's never owned a motorcycle and she wants to learn how to ride better and all that sort of stuff. She's ridden my Bonneville before. So I was like, well, this little 305cc Dream would be perfect. So at the same time, though, I was like, well, if it happens to sell before it comes home, then no big deal. So I threw it up on eBay so that I might not have to pay to ship it to my house.
Mm.
And I just got I just accepted an offer for about $500 more than I paid for it. So
500?
Yeah, I paid $1,600 for it, and I accepted an offer for $2,150.
So where is it right now?
Right now, it is at Phil's house.
Okay, and where's the person at that's buying it?
In Alabama.
Are they shipping it?
Yeah, it was one of those. I put it up there as a local pickup / you ship it yourself kind of deals, and the guy that bought it has Phil's contact info and that sort of stuff, so he can reach out and arrange how it's going to get there and that sort of thing.
Man, that's super cool.
Yeah, and I got to ride it around the show. It looks, really cute. It's a little Honda Dream from 1964.
What did Phil do with his? Keep it or sell it?
He's gonna sell it, I'm sure. He got really excited about it. His quote before we left was, "I'm 6 o'clock drunk at 2 p.m. I maybe shouldn't be out looking at motorcycles." And then he went and bought something.
That's awesome, man.
That's a very, very nicely maintained Honda Dream that he bought, though.
Yeah. Well, I saw a picture on Instagram. It looked like he bought a full-size motorcycle or something.
The Honda Dream is a full-size bike.
I know, but it's maybe that's what I saw. I thought it was something else.
Black and white, black and silver with white walls, and like I rode it around. It's not big, but it's like Honda Nighthawk 250 sized in terms of physical stature.
Man, I would have kept that thing.
Yeah. But if somebody offered to give you $500 more than you paid for it, would you have kept it?
I would have sold it.
Exactly.
Right.
I was okay with it coming home. Like, I was like, yeah, I'll throw it up there. And if I happen to arrange to have it shipped here and all that sort of stuff before it sells, then cool. I'll just give it to my friend. But that didn't happen. So
what was the story? There was a picture you posted with a bike on its side.
Oh yeah, we were. So I think that was the first night we were there at the actually. So to kind of set the scene, Mid Ohio Sports Car Course is in Lexington, Ohio, which is the middle of nowhere. There's just farmland and not a tooth for 100 miles. But there's the first night we all went down to like the local little like Mexican restaurant that's just down the street. And as we were leaving, it had rained before we left, and as we're leaving, we see this K1600 GT. I think it was the GTL, like the full, full soup to nuts touring machine on its side, just in the median. Nobody around. Like he probably just put his kickstand down and didn't have anything to like stick under it, and it hadn't rained yet. So then once it rained, it sunk in and just, I'm gonna take a nap right here.
Okay, so that's what happened.
Yeah.
I didn't know if somebody got drunk and like crashed or
I didn't
what the
hear
deal
about
was.
anything like that. I also didn't hear, so, like, we were not in, like, the party central area of the campsite.
I
We
didn't
had
realize it was like this. I thought it was going to be like,
it
barber kind of more sophisticated and
No. No. It is not sophisticated. It's
I'm
highly
looking at the
unsophisticated.
pictures are epic, man. I mean, they're epic. It's just
Yeah,
like,
there was a guy there was one of the pictures I posted is a selfie as I was on a scooter, like a little Taiwanese buddy scooter, I think. I might have been on the Vespa, but I don't think so. I was on a scooter and I passed a guy who's on a small four-wheeler carrying a smaller motorcycle in his lap.
saw that.
Yeah.
That's
That that
awesome.
was that was like the quintessential Mid-Ohio example. Um, I also screwed the Zero FX into the dirt at one point, like very, very gently, and no rider nor motorcycle was harmed in the making of that accident. But um, I
Well,
was
isn't
coming
it, that's
down
a
one of the lanes in the
dirt bike
campsite.
anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's the only problem is like once it because of the way that one doesn't have any traction control, so once it loses traction, the
Hmm.
throttle is just like and you go down.
How was the SRF? I meant to ask you.
Yeah, so we got back from Mid Ohio, and the next day I rode the SRF through the Cleveland Metro Parks, or some of it, and it is incredibly. It's a surreal machine to ride because there's nothing telling you that you are about to be going really fast, or that you can go really fast, or even that there's some sort of violent motion capable of this machine, or this machine is capable of violent motion. It's just this silent, still thing that's just waiting. And then as soon as you twist the throttle, you're silently rocketing forward. Um, you could hear the motor noise. It makes kind of like an electric hum
Hmm.
sort of noise. But other than that, like it was just light speed, like you're 0 to whatever, just insanely fast. And because of the way you can play with the drive modes, Phil has one of the drive modes set up to be maximum regeneration of braking, like maximum engine regen as soon as you pull the brake lever. So from like 40 miles an hour, you could stop quite aggressively without engaging your brake pads at all.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is
Um,
something that you can tweak the
mhm.
the drive mode settings.
Yeah, you can change. So there's different traction control modes. So there's like rain, street, and sport. But there's also how much regen do you want? How much torque do you want access to? Stuff like that. And so the Cleveland Moto mode that he set up as like a one of the available presets, because you've got rain, and then you've got street and you've got sport as presets. And then Cleveland Moto was traction control was set to street, but regen was set to 100%, like maximum regen on braking, but none on coasting, and then 100% torque available. So it wasn't going to limit it was going to keep you from flipping over because the traction control would do that. But but it would allow you to have all of the torques when it thought that was safe, which meant that once you were up and moving, you could just whack the throttle open and be going way faster than the Cleveland police would like you to go through the metro parks very, very
Right.
easily. Because the metro park speed limit is 30 miles an hour. And I saw 80 at least once. Because it does it the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, but any motorcyclist in the world would get there and go, oh yeah, 80 is what you should be doing through a lot of this. Um, I was as soon as I got back, I was like, Phil, Metro Parks TT. They need to do it. I don't care if they do it on Groms or scooters, but they need to shut down a section of these stupid parks once a year for a weekend and have a TT race through it. It'd be
I've
perfect.
always thought that would be a good idea in some of these places, because you're
Yeah.
not really on the street. They can put air fences up. The roads are
Right.
really cool.
I mean, supposedly, the metro parks, if you ride from one end to the other, is like 127 or 160 miles or something like that, because it
Really?
goes from one end of Lake Erie down, like it follows this river and then over this other river and blah 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 through all of the different metro areas along the bottom, or yeah, along the American side of Lake Erie, and connects back up to Lake Erie on the other side. I
Yeah,
only
that'd
did
be
like
cool.
maybe a 10-mile section of it,
I,
and it
I
was
also so
beautiful.
he's a zero dealer, right?
Hmm.
What's retail price on that thing?
Uh, I don't know. In
15?
2021,
Oh, okay.
23, I think maxed out. I think it's like 23 or something like that.
Still not $30,000 like a live wire.
Right. And you can ride one. Like I rode one. I haven't ever seen a live wire untethered. So
Yeah, and I think that I saw something on Harley's page the other day about some rollout they did somewhere. So maybe we'll start to see them. But
yeah.
you've got some really cool pictures posted. If you guys go to our Instagram page, Cafe Racer Podcast, he's got a Porco's picture, the
Yep.
dreams.
Hmm.
You know what, man? That Vespa, that thing, I would have loved to have that. That
Okay.
little gray
So
Vespa. That,
that gray Vespa is the newest, most technologically advanced Vespa available right now. So it has a TFT display, full traction control, all that stuff,
super cool looking
but it's
too.
still, like a metal bodied, beautiful, classic looking Vespa
Yeah,
scooter.
that
It's
thing's gorgeous.
300 cc's and it will do 80. It will not let you do more than 80, but it will do 80. Um, They do this thing called the Lap of History at Vintage
Hmm.
Days where you sign up, pay $10, and you get to go with everybody else at the same time, do a lap, air quotes, of Mid Ohio Sports Car Course. We did 3 laps, and it's not a race; it's a parade lap. Everybody's kind of taking it easy,
We do that at
but
Barber too.
yeah. And so my very first time on any racetrack of any kind was on the Vespa doing the Lap of History,
It sounds like fun. Do they
and
make you wear boots and stuff like that, or
you had to have the rules were closed-toed shoes, long pants, and a
long
DOT
sleeve?
approved helmet.
Okay,
I had a t-shirt on and no gloves.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, Barber made you have like a jacket and boots and all that crap.
I had all that stuff if I needed it, but yeah, I wore my Bell, my Dime City Cycles, like custom painted Bell helmet with my dirt bike goggles, like my American flag dirt bike goggles that I have. And then t-shirt, jeans, and I think I had my motorcycle boots on, but I didn't need to. I could have worn my Vans and they wouldn't have
Dude,
cared.
I mean, I'm like so bummed out that I didn't go. You look like you had a
Next year.
blast.
Yeah, next year, seriously. It was incredible. I like everywhere you turned there was another weird, crazy, wacky motorcycle or something. I mean, uh there was it was so cool to see all these little kids riding old, dirt bikes or new dirt bikes or like, 50cc things or three-wheelers, like whatever. Like there were children roving around at all times pretty much on, you know, motorcycles
Yeah,
or scooters or whatever. So that was really cool
hmm.
to see. The swap
Like,
meet's huge.
so really, what they have going on there mostly is there's no racing going on during
No, there's
this.
racing.
Oh, there is. Okay,
Yeah, they do racing during the day. I didn't see any of it. I didn't like stop to go watch any of it, but they had racing going on the whole weekend. There was off-road. They had like time trial and like woods races going on. They had a pit bike race in one area, and then they had the actual track was in use. They have a vintage class or a couple of vintage classes or something, and then they also have like modern, sport bikes.
right.
But it wasn't like Laguna Seca World Superbike, race weekend
No, I
thing.
mean that's the way it's kind of. It's not that way at Barber either. It's all vintage racing.
Yeah.
Racing at Barber is great to watch. I love watching the vintage races.
Yeah. The
They had a race for bikes that were over 100 years old.
Yeah, I don't think they did anything like that at Mid Ohio. I don't think they have the amount of people coming for that.
Yeah,
The swap meet though, it's the largest motorcycle swap meet in the country. It might be the largest one in the world because I don't know what else is going on in the other countries, but it's it's huge. And I mean, basically the rule that Phil said is everybody's pricing their stuff about 60% higher than what it's actually worth. It's just like that's like the wacky Mid Ohio rule. You just show up, you put a pie plate or something on it, and you write like, "Oh, this thing's worth $500, $1,100," and then
right.
you go from there. We Phil sold 3 motorcycles total for $280 combined. Two, one of them was for $140, and the other two were for 20 apiece, or $180. Yeah, but
Are these all like small displacement bikes or what?
no. One of them was a Ninja ZX7R from
Mm,
a while ago that didn't have a title. It was definitely not stolen. The ignition was destroyed and it didn't have a title. Um, it had like an alligator seat on it, a bunch of other stuff. There was the Yamaha 750. I don't know what uh, I don't know what the model was. It was older. It was an older sport bike, and somebody at some point had taken and put like a really nice upside down fork front end on it. And so the last day, like after technically everybody was leaving, it was Sunday afternoon. Me and all the rest of the guys that had come out with Cleveland Moto, like got a few tools out and ripped the front end off of this bike. Like we pulled the front wheel and the forks and the everything off this bike and left a carcass there in our little uh swap meet spot. And somebody came over and was like, "I'll give you $20 for that." And Phil was like, $20 sounds like a great amount. I'll take it.
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's like, dude, if you had waited an hour longer, it would have just been here.
Right.
Like we
I had
weren't
that happen
bringing
at
it.
a garage sale once. I had a pile of garbage next to the house, and there was a wheel from a wheelbarrow sitting in it. Some
Mm-hmm.
guy walks over and goes, "How much you want for that?" I almost said like $1, but I'm like, "You can have it, man. That's trash." He's like, "Oh, really?" He was all
Yeah.
excited. So did you see those? Not to change the subject, but I'm
No, go for
gonna.
it.
But I'm looking through our feed. Did you see those pictures of those? What I thought were ruckuses I posted?
I did. Yeah, I saw those.
I had no clue that. I mean, I don't know very much about the ruckus anyway. So we're out to dinner at this pizza place, and I see these two goofy things parked out there. And the first one was the white one, and it said Honda on the frame.
Mm-hmm.
So I posted these things. I just thought a couple of idiots like farkled out these bikes, and somebody posted on there, "That's a chuckus," which I thought
Yeah,
was,
as in like a Chinese ruckus.
yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
I really liked it.
I mean, you should have seen how ridiculous these things were. They almost reminded me of the mods scooters,
Yeah, yeah, like a
like with
mod scooter.
lights. Yeah,
It's got like 15 mirrors and
yeah, yeah. They had all kinds of gauges all over them and stupid crap. But yeah, no, apparently one of them said Honda right on it, which
yeah,
I don't know. Dumb me thought it's actually a Honda, but
right. Oh, so I talked about it getting rainy there in Mid Ohio.
I see a lot of mud in the pictures.
Yeah, there's a picture I took where you see like two four-wheel drive tractors like
Yeah,
facing each other.
the
They're attached.
backhoe and the front end loader. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. They were attached to an RV. Like the RV was stuck. The green tractor was trying to pull it out, and then they brought the yellow backhoe over and were trying to pull everybody out together with. Um, Meanwhile,
That's why
we pulled.
scooters are good ideas.
Yeah, they just kind of float over everything. Meanwhile, we had driven over to the like party area and helped somebody pull their pickup truck out using the Hiace. this little 2.9 or 2.7 liter non-turbo diesel motor. We pulled out a Ram 1500 that was stuck in the
Really?
mud. Yeah.
Where did he get that thing from?
The
One of
highest?
these? Yeah.
Phil is a broker for um, Japanese vehicles over 25
Oh,
years old.
that's really
So
good to know, man. I know somebody who's looking for some stuff.
yeah, if you're looking for any weird JDM, vehicles, Phil at Cleveland Moto is a like importer of
Man,
them.
there's some really cool stuff available too.
Yeah, Phil has a hearse that has an entire Shinto temple on top.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It weighs almost as much as the whole car. Um, it's like 2,100 pounds of Shinto temple on top of a 2,600-pound car.
The Hiace is really neat because it's four-wheel drive, you know?
Yeah, the Hiace was great. I drove it a lot over the time I was there because we would often end up with like multiple vehicles at one location and we would need to move them to another. Like, so I would drive one, Phil would drive the other. And I ended up driving the Hiace quite a bit. And it messed me up because the first time you get in it, you realize that the turn signal little stick on your steering column is on the opposite
Mhm.
side. So the first time you go to turn your turn signal on, you flip your windshield wipers on by accident. So I was driving around that thing, and then I get home and I get into my own car, and the first thing I do when I go to like signal a turn is flip my windshield wipers on because I flipped the wrong thing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Man, it looks like you had a really great time.
Yeah, I highly recommend anybody go. The per day cost to be there, I don't know exactly what it was. I can't remember, but it was not high. It's not expensive to get a day pass. It's not so far away from like a big city that you couldn't, fly in for the weekend and just kind of like make that a part of your trip. You wouldn't have to stay in camp the whole time. You could just kind of come on Saturday. Don't come on Sunday. If you're gonna only come for one day, don't make it Sunday because everybody's packing up and leaving anyway.
Right.
Especially if they had a good Saturday. If Saturday wasn't super rainy and people sold a lot of stuff, half of those people are leaving Saturday night.
Is that like a common thing that it rains? Like, did they say, yeah, this happens every year?
Yep. Apparently it rains
Yeah.
like at least one of the days every year. Oh,
Uh,
I got to demo ride. Honda and Harley had demo vehicles there.
mhm.
So I demo rode a regular transmission Honda Goldwing.
And
I loved it. It was super
yeah,
comfy. I had the radio on the whole time,
you didn't
playing
find because
around with it.
you're kind of longer than I am. You didn't find yourself a little cramped on it, or you felt comfortable?
I don't know. I'm used to riding small bikes, so
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
I didn't feel weird.
Right, right, right.
The I played with the windshield height like the whole time, just like moving it up and down at various points, and I set the cruise control a few times while we were riding, on the demo route and everything. The Then I rode a Harley. Like the next day, I rode the Road King,
Hmm.
and I've now ridden the Road King, the Fat Bob, and I don't know what the name of the other one is, but it's like the white one with like the extra aggressive handlebars and
That's the one we saw at AIM.
yeah, yeah.
That's
That's the one Donna from Harley.
FXDR or
Like,
something.
yeah, I think it is the FXDR.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that was very highly recommended that I ride by Donna, our, my friend that works for Harley. And I didn't like the FXDR when I rode it. I didn't like the position. I did like the Fat Bob, much to my own chagrin. And the Road King was fun. Like it would have been more fun with a windshield because it's a big touring bike, so you want to be extra comfy. And so I think, throw a big fat barn door windshield on that thing and it could be fun. It's not
Which one did you like the best out of all of them?
uh it's really hard to say because the Bonneville, not Bonneville, the Fat Bob I rode at Vegas, and so I just did a square. I didn't like go anywhere fun.
I thought you took off on your own and did something else.
I The only something else I did was like go over to our hotel to get my shoes.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, because they do
Yeah, the
let you go on your
FXDR's
own.
got the biggest motor. That's a 114 cubic inch.
Yeah, the motor's great. The because they're all using the Milwaukee 8 platform,
Right.
and I don't know about longevity or over long life like reliability of that thing, but it's a great engine. It's smooth. It's got a metric butt load. Well, I guess a standard butt load of torque. Um, it felt super nice. The funny thing was when we got back, they were asking us questions about like the mud flecked on the bikes when we pulled back in, and I was like, uh, we're at Mud, Ohio, man. Like, there's mud everywhere. There's mud going out the gate. They were
What were they asking you?
I
Like
think they just wanted to like
why there was mud on it?
yeah, they're like, "Well, what happened here? Like, why is there a bunch of mud on the rear fender?" Like, because there's a bunch of water and mud going out the front gate of the track. Um,
What did the guy say to you?
he was like, "All right." That was it. But still, it's like, "Dude,
Genius.
have you looked around?"
Yeah, genius. Right.
I seriously considered riding it through the swap meet, though, before I brought it back. Like, that's just riding it through the soupy,
Sell it.
thick
Sell it.
crap, and then come back and be like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I just went out the front gate. It was really muddy."
It's pretty funny. So I got my shirts from Scotch and Iron.
Oh, cool.
I'm wearing one. There's a logo here, and then the other one has got their Scotch and Iron logo in the front, which is kind of cool, and big logo in the back. Turns out these guys, it says Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and so was the return address. So
Nice.
that's kind of cool. Hopefully, I can get Russell onto the show. And then they sent these cool little iron-on patches, which I'm probably going to send you, and you can include them in some sort of prize pack or something we send out.
Yeah, that works for me.
Because I won't do anything with them. I don't have anything I iron patches onto, but yeah, the shirts are nice. I'm still want to get an update from when we talked about it a while ago on his lawsuit for
Yeah.
this infringement of the name, but we'll check that out. And then I got to meet Alvin this weekend. Yesterday, I went for a ride, and
Alvin
Alvin we had on the
from
show.
Black Giraffe.
Alvin
Yeah.
Lawrence from Black Giraffe. Yeah, he came down, was hanging out with some friends, and um, man, I tell you, it was so hot yesterday, and it was like 97
That's
and
hot.
humid. Yeah, it was brutal. It was not fun, and it was bright sun,
Mhm.
no clouds, no overcast. I got the bike like a little late. I left like around 9 in the morning. Usually I leave around 7 just to avoid some of that. But by the time I got to the gas station where everybody hangs out, and I was like, man, I don't have it in me to go for a ride. I'm just done. And I was
Yeah.
wearing a ventilated jacket too, and I stayed at the gas station for like an hour and then split. Got some pictures I'll post, some cool stuff, but just yeah, I'm not into it. I did
Yeah.
see the new Kawasaki, that H2.
SX.
Yeah, yeah, it was really nice actually.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. The seating position, the bars only look like they're about, and I could be wrong, maybe 3 inches higher than the standard H2.
Right.
It still looks like you're in a pretty aggressive position,
Yeah.
but the display was really cool. It's got a TFT display. It's got all kinds of stuff. It shows braking pressure when you grab
Oh,
the brake level.
all
It
right.
shows lean angle, all kinds of things. The guy that owned it was really impressed with it. He said the bags were big enough to put a helmet in
Oh, that's
the
cool.
back. Yeah,
That's more than I can say for my KTM.
yeah, ditto.
I would say like the KTM Super Duke GT is kind of in a similar class of like sport tourer as the SX. Like, yeah, the SX is more sport and the KTM is more upright, but they're
I
both
would agree.
they're both ridiculous machines turned into a thing with saddlebags.
Yeah. No, and I think like if you look at that spectrum of like we used to talk about, on one end you have something that's really not a sport tourer. It's just more of a touring bike, and on the other end you got like a Busa with bags. That
Yeah.
Kawasaki's closer to the Busa with bags,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
or it's an H2 with bags. I mean, let's call it
Right.
what it is.
Yeah. I think I saw an H2. I don't know if it was an SX. I saw an H2 just driving around at Mid Ohio. Like when I was driving around, I saw one parked in like the
So I
median area.
noticed it has the lean angle lights like our bikes have.
Oh yeah, the cornering lights or whatever that
Yeah,
come on as you lean
10,
over.
20, and 30 degree, the exact same system. It's pretty cool.
Those are really
So what do
cool.
you Yeah, they work too. I thought it was
Mhm.
gonna be a gimmick and stupid, and I asked the guy, I'm like, "What do you think?" He goes, "I'm surprised they actually work." He goes, "I didn't think I was gonna like them." I'm like, "I'm the same way."
Yeah, I feel the same way too, like, the way that, because if you think about it, when you're turning, your headlight tips over, and then you lose that light that goes around the corner a little bit
Right.
on the inside, which is kinda where you want it. And, yeah, those
Didn't they
lights
make a
shine.
bike? I don't know if it was BMW but didn't they have a bike that was like a Tucker car where the front headlight moved?
I don't know if anybody made one. I know I've heard of, like, concepts and patents and stuff for bikes that, like, automatically keep the headlight level in turns and stuff like that. Um,
I gotta
and yeah,
Google it.
the Tucker with its center mounted headlight that turns with the wheel is kind of an interesting thing. My parents have a Buick Enclave. It's like an SUV-ish crossover thing, and its
Mhm.
headlights turn when you turn the wheel. I noticed that the last time I was out visiting them in Arizona, 'cause I usually don't drive much when I'm out there, and I'm especially not at night because 'cause I'm not going anywhere. But I was getting up early in the morning to, like, take my son to, like, a little summer program thing, and I would go to, like, turn around a corner, and I would see the headlight beam go, like, "Eh," and move over to the right. I'm like, "What the heck is going on?" Then I realized it was doing that on purpose.
So there's a company called All Light,
Yeah.
ALLIGHT, that's got a self-leveling projector beam.
Hmm.
It would fit like in a light socket.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think the way that they did it in the KTM and now the Kawasaki is pretty elegant.
Yeah,
It's
it's good.
yeah, it's not a gimmick,
No, yeah,
not
the
at all.
cornering lights are definitely a real thing, and they're cool.
So yeah, I came back and just parked the bike, man. I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
It was brutal. Oh, you know what happened? I meant to tell you this.
Hmm.
So my warehouse where I keep the motorcycles is kind of like in a semi-industrial area of Jupiter. It's like behind a Home Depot, off the
Sure.
main drag, and you kind of make a turn like you're going to go into the Home Depot, and then there's a little road. And there was a truck in front of me. I was getting back, and I'm going to admit something that when I was at the gas station, I went to go look for my keys in my pocket for my shed, and they weren't there. And distinctly remember dropping them in my pocket when I left. And then I started to second guess myself, like, wait a second, did I actually close the door when I left?
Right.
I remember grabbing the keys off of a bigger key ring and thinking I'm going to lock the overhead door. And it's got a roll up. It's like a garage.
Mhm.
And now I'm kind of panicking on the way back
Sure.
because not only do I have the other motorcycle in there and all my tools, but the keys to my Explorer were in there. And I'm thinking, crap. Like, I wonder if I left the door open. So I make the right hand turn to go off of the main road behind the Home Depot, and there's a guy in a blue truck, and he's going really slow, and he's in front of me. So I pass the guy. I pass
Mhm.
him. I get in front of him, and I make the left hand turn to go where the warehouses are. I notice he turns left also. I don't think anything of it. I make a right to go down to my road where the warehouses are, and I see him turning right, and then he speeds up, and he's like right on my ass. I pull into the warehouse. He pulls in behind me. I make a right to go to my warehouse, and he goes left. I'm like, okay, so he's just got a place in here too.
Mhm.
Then I notice as I'm pulling in, my door's shut, and there's a padlock on it. So now I remember, okay, I guess I did close it. It's locked.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, this guy pulls up behind me from the other direction, and I'm like, in the process of taking my helmet off, I'm not really turning around to look at him. He
Yeah.
just kind of stops behind me for a second and then peels out. I have no idea what he was doing. My neighbor happened to be there.
Yeah.
The guy that's got the warehouse next to me, he walked out and he goes, "Who just peeled out?" I'm like, "Some guy in a truck." He followed me in here.
Hmm.
So, long story short, my neighbor had found my keys on the ground. I guess
Oh,
when I
nice.
went to slip them in my pocket, I missed the pocket and they went on the ground. But
Mm.
I kind of like took it once I packed up my bike and closed the warehouse. I took a drive through the place. That guy didn't have a place in there at all. His truck wasn't in there. So
Yeah.
he must have got pissed that I passed him, which wasn't illegal or wasn't reckless,
Yeah.
and like followed me in there. And I don't know what his intention was, but it kind of like what the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Maybe when he saw my neighbor walk out, like he figured out there's two guys here and he just sped off. But He never said anything to me. He never got out of the truck. I'm like, what the hell? Just freaked me out a little bit, you know? Like, what
Sometimes,
idiot.
yeah, people get weird.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah, especially like about motorcyclists or bicyclists or really anybody else on the road. People act very strangely.
Anyway, when I was at the gas station, I got the instructions out for the pack talk again to make sure that the voice control was turned on.
Yeah.
It was turned on. I checked it. It worked fine in the
Hmm.
helmet, like not on the bike. As soon as I get on the bike and try to get it to wake up to do something, it doesn't pay attention
Huh.
at all.
That's
So
strange.
I tried to get the mount out of the helmet without breaking it because it's stuck on there. I'm going to try again and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I like, I'm used to the controls now for the most part.
Yeah.
Like I can feel them with gloves on. And did you ever get your JBL speakers?
No, I've been meaning to buy them. I just haven't done it.
They're not expensive, right? They're like $20.
They're like $80.
Oh, 80? Okay.
Yeah, I think they're like $80 or $89 or something like that.
All right. Yeah, I want to try that out, but I want it back for you when you're done because I'm starting to really like
Yeah.
the quality of the music, you know?
Yeah, same here. Um, I actually haven't ridden one of my own motorcycles in I don't know how long. Like just before the show, I was like, I haven't ridden. I cannot tell you the last time I rode a motorcycle except for Mid Ohio.
Why? Because you keep renting them out?
No, I haven't. They've been off the rental service. My Bonneville has been stuck in the backyard, and this past weekend, I built ramps to get the Bonneville out of the backyard. Once I'm done doing some like freshening, it's been languishing in the little garage behind my house, so it needs a little TLC, good wash down, some little preventative maintenance, and then it'll be ready to go. Which is good because in like a month, I have a camping trip that I'm going on, and I'm intentionally planning to take the Bonneville. It's this high pipe moto rally, which is a scrambler rally. So I'm going to take that. Me and some friends from San Diego area are all going up and camping out up there. But I needed a way to get the Bonneville out of the backyard. So I bought some 2x12s and one of those little like ramp end kits that just lets you like rest the 2x12s flush with,
Right.
tailgate or whatever. And so now I should be able to get the Bonneville out. I'm going to add a few more things to the ramp. My buddy was like, oh, dude, put some like 1x3s horizontally on those ramps, and then you'll have something for traction for both your feet and the bike. Like, that's not a bad idea, especially like in case it somehow ends up getting wet, in which case it's just wet wood and you'll just slip right down it and die. Um, so yeah,
Where's
I'm
the
going to do
KTM?
what's that?
Where is the KTM?
Oh, it's just right there, just on the other side of this wall. I just haven't ridden it. I've been really busy with like a bunch of other stuff that involves carrying large amounts of things that don't fit in saddlebags everywhere. And so, like, for example, I'm in yoga teacher training, which is like I'm doing yoga 5 to 7 times a week right now, depending on how I break it up. And carrying my yoga mat around, for example, on a motorcycle is a colossal pain in the ass.
What do you
Yeah, I
mean?
can just
Roll it up and put it on the back.
Yeah, I can do that, but then it gets all like messed. I get like gets all squished down and messed up. Like my yoga mat is permanently like scored with my straps from my from my thing, and
Don't you
then
have like a yoga mat guitar strap or something you can sling over your back?
I
So if
could,
you're
yeah,
carrying a map tube or something, a map case.
yeah, um,
I don't know. I'm one to talk. I
yeah,
haven't ridden in a while either, except for
right,
this Sunday.
yeah. So I'm hoping the KTM. Well, no, I was gone for a week as well. I mean, I was gone for 8 days total. Um, so that was a good portion of me not riding any of my bikes. The the KTM. I had I had a lot of big plans this weekend. I got most of the things done that I wanted to do, but one of those things I wanted was to wash both bikes, and I did not do that at all. So the KTM and the Bonneville are both like covered in spider webs and crap right now because that's a big thing around my house. Is there's spider webs everywhere if I'm not super active about it. And as somebody that's terrified to death of spiders, it makes walking outside in the dark really interesting, especially for anybody watching me do it. Because I pull my phone out and I turn the little flashlight on, and then I'm like
Mhm.
moving the flashlight back and forth to see if I catch like a shadow being cast by like a spider hanging.
Right.
Because a couple times I've caught like a spider going from my like roof line to my porch like railing, like
Mhm.
making a web right there. And so it's basically like head height, and there'll just be this fairly gnarly little fat bodied spider. I'm just like, ah, okay, gonna, gonna kill you now.
They don't bother me at all, man. Like spiders, I could care less.
Yeah, but
Cockroaches gross me out, but spiders, I don't care.
yeah, I had a lot of yard work to do this weekend too because I'd been gone basically for 2 weekends because I was gone. I did it, and then there was a whole weekend, and then I got back. So
Mine was
I got a
mostly
nice
moving
sunburn. My
still.
back is pretty lobstery.
Yeah, then I got to do my other passion on Saturday, which was a shot in a match. That was
Oh, cool.
one of the local police departments did this brothers in arms match, which was like cops against the firefighters, and
Yeah,
it was a fun match. And but it was outside, like in a half indoor, half outdoor range kind of thing, and it was just brutally hot, you know.
yeah,
But hopefully next weekend it'll cool down. But I mean, I wouldn't even mind riding in a light rain next weekend because I really want to go out and ride again. I got
yeah.
to figure out what the hell's wrong with the Guzzi. I went in there to start it, and it turned over, but it didn't start. So
Hmm.
now I'm kind of worried that it being on the trickle charger for so long has kind of killed the battery.
Yeah.
So
Henry from Motorcycles and Misfits has a V11 that he
yeah,
rebuilt almost completely. So
I
um,
should ask him
yeah, you might want to reach out and see if he has
because
any
it's
extra. He
funny
has
that
a he has a V11 Rosa Corsa.
those are rare too. Actually, I think the Rosa Corsa, well, the Nero Corsa, the black one.
Yeah,
Now I gotta look. One of them they made less numbers than the 10A. The 10A they made 170.
yeah,
I don't remember the. They've got a Rosa Mandela too. The Rosa Corsa.
yeah. It was funny when I was talking to Henry about, he was telling me about the Rosa Corsa, and I was like, oh, Steve has a Tenny, and he's like, ooh, like it was just funny, like the Moto Guzzi nerd, like
Yeah,
the Moto Guzzi weirdo love like came out.
right, right. Because you don't really, unless you, it's one of these things like unless you really know what it is,
Right.
people are like I don't know, like that doesn't look that cool to me. So
Right, because there's such the bikes are there's so few of them that like if you have some like super rare Honda or whatever, like people know what Hondas are at least, so they can be like, oh, that's a rare special one.
right,
But like Gucci's are just rare, period. And
right.
so then you have like an extra super rare one. They're like, well, I've never heard of that thing in the first place, so whatever. Can't be
And they
that
were
cool.
they were ridiculously expensive at the time. I think mine was in 2002 was almost $14,000.
Yikes.
Yeah, yeah, they got crazy money for these things. But the funny thing is like they sometimes they command a premium when you sell them, and other times they don't. Like I've seen them kind of all over the place on eBay. I've seen one go for as much as 10 grand, and it's for as little as 6,500.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's if I ever sell mine, I would probably take the time and sell it in Japan because the market in Japan for them is really high.
Hmm.
I would probably ship it over.
So that's another possible reason to go to Vintage Days, um, or at least explore the possibilities at Vintage Days. There's a couple of people that are there's basically like a couple of Japanese guys that have booths that they're bringing JDM only, of motorcycles are only available in Japan over and selling them, and in exchange they're also buying a bunch of like high demand Japanese bikes like KZs and stuff like that that the people in Japan are like super after. So if you if you're thinking about selling the Guzzi, it might be worth anyway. It might be worth if you come to Mid Ohio. It might be worth finding one of those guys and bringing it up.
It's one of those things where I think about it a lot because there's other bikes I'd like to have, and then I
Yeah,
think as soon as I do it, I'm gonna be regretting it.
yeah. The Bonneville's kind of in that place for me. Um, I keep I keep almost selling it or thinking about selling it. And then I start changing it again. That's sort of like what's happening. I'll start to think about selling it and then I change its configuration again, which is the exact opposite of selling it. It's just dumping more money into this boat that I own. Um, in
I
fact,
would get that
one
bike is cool. Why would you want to get rid of it though?
I don't know because there's other stuff I could drive instead of it.
Yeah.
Um, the the Tenny's cool, but you sometimes thinking about selling it.
It's just I don't get to ride it that much, and the fact that I'm having issues with it,
Yeah,
makes it even
yeah.
worse. Because the days I do want to ride it, like I haven't been able to take it to any of the Vintage Iron Club things. I mean, I had a conversation with Dana about like taking me and dropping me off at this place, Jupiter Cycle, and let them have a crack at it. But
Hmm.
part of me feels like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to drop it off there because these guys don't really have a lot of experience with it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like this
Yeah,
love hate thing where I get tired of it, and the other day I was like, I'm going to sell both my bikes and get a gold one. And then I thought, no, I really enjoy the KTM, and so I don't know, man.
right. The the Bonneville one of my plans for the weekend that I didn't get to was actually to go through all of the extra parts and random things that I have for the Bonneville and start eBaying that stuff off. Like I have stock shocks for a Bonneville. What the hell do I need those for, you know? Um, I have a Magura front master cylinder that doesn't work quite right with my caliper setup. So somebody else, it's universal. You can put it on any bike that uses a 7/8 inch handlebar. So why not pass that on to somebody else that could actually use it?
Hmm.
So one of these days, maybe this coming weekend.
Yeah, there's a lot of crap I need to do that with in the shop too that I've got that are bike motorcycle parts for motorcycles I don't even own anymore. I've
Yeah,
got parts for the Bandit and stuff like that and the V-Strom, and they just kind of sit around. I mean, I need to get my ass in gear and get rid of them. Some of them I might even just give away, but
yeah,
I don't know, man. I think I would really miss the V11 because you rode that bike and it's kind of a unique thing.
yeah. It's got a different feel to it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, especially when the weather's better, I really like riding the bike. But the funny thing is, the guy that I bought it from, who bought the other one, is having the exact same issue that I'm having. And this guy is not a mechanic, and his way of fixing things may have actually caused more damage to the bike. But
Yeah.
apparently, he said that he would like reach down below the handlebars and grab a handful of the wiring and kind of like shake it, and then the bike would start up fine the next time. I'm like, oh great,
Hmm.
God knows what he's done, like loosening stuff up or tearing something out. But there's no real pattern to it of
Yeah.
why it does what it does. It's just this weird mystery, and I've tried all these things. So I think I'm gonna give as much information as I can to these guys at Jupiter Cycle and say, figure it out. But I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm looking it up. The Rosa Mandela, they made 300 of them. It looks
Okay.
like um, the Rosa Corsa, and I thought there was a Nero Corsa, which was all black.
Yeah.
The 10 they only made 170 total,
Right.
and mine's got like a placard, on there that says 105 of 170 or just 105.
Yeah. So, would you
Uh,
like to hear
yeah,
some
let's talk
silly
about it.
use
Yeah,
cases
yeah,
and
yeah,
give
yeah,
away a case?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
as far as we asked people to submit a real world and then maybe a like ridiculous, silly use. And the vast majority of the real world uses were, pretty much the same thing. I'd store some small electronics, a little camera, or extra GoPro batteries or whatever. Um, the only one that mentioned like kind of anything different was Alex Marsh. He said it'd be really nice to mount on the handlebar or the windscreen stays of his bike, so he'd have an easy access stash box for his like stuff that's in his pockets, phone, wallet, random pocket items. Again, I mean, we weren't expecting to get anything like super mind blowing from the real world results. Like, we're just thinking, what would you really use it for? So we looked through all of them, and you and I talked beforehand, and we decided that Alex, congratulations, you will be the winner of one Pelican R40 Ruck case and one Pelican. I don't know what this is called. It's a thermos thing, but it's not made by Thermos, so
Thermos.
it's a thermos. Uh, it's not a Tuma. Anyway, so yeah, Alex, congratulations. And then as far as the less realistic answers, we got from Alex, and I'm going to read you a couple because these are pretty funny. Alex's answer was at least a day's worth of gummy bears or booze miniatures, and I got to be honest, man. If you filled this thing with gummy bears, that is like a diabetic coma waiting to happen. Like that's a
It's a
lot
lot
of
of
gummy
gummy
bears.
bears. Yeah.
But if you filled it with gummy bears and then poured booze miniatures in them, then you could have boozy gummy bears when you get where you're going. Let's see. There was another one that was fun. Oh, where is it? Oh yeah. So Robert Kuntz said he would like to take the case to store other smaller cases so that he can ensure the highest level of protection for those cases.
All the way down to
Like
a
sort of,
teeny tiny little case.
yeah, with like a single SD card in it.
Right.
It's like a Russian nesting doll, Matryoshka. Matthew Brown submitted the idea that it looks like a great place for his vintage porcelain unicorn collection. So that
I wish I
that was a
had a vintage
solid
unicorn collection.
that was a solid runner up. That when I first saw that one, I was like, oh, this one might win. But then we
Right.
got kind of a late entry from our friend Wes Fleming, and I gotta say, he really, really blew it out of the park. And it's almost too good. So I'm just gonna read you directly from his email. I'm of the mind that there are two things no self-respecting man should be without: a fork and a brick. Why? Because both can be used to disable and or kill an assailant. The brick has its obvious uses: tripping hazard, poking out an eye or two, bashing about the head and shoulders until the assailant loses consciousness and or shuffles off this mortal coil. The fork is a bit more esoteric, because of course I would use an olive fork. You wouldn't, Philistine. You really have to commit to using an olive fork to kill a motherfucker with it. Pardon Wes's language. We're sorry. The great thing is the sense of satisfaction you feel after accomplishing such a thing. Now, you might be wondering here, the R40 fits where the might be wondering where the R40 fits into this. If it's orange, it kind of looks like a brick. It doesn't quite have the heft of a brick, so you've really got to commit and just pound the everlasting shit out of the guy until his head is mostly just mush. By now, you're probably wondering to yourself, but what about the olive fork? Well, that's inside the R40, along with my phone and wallet. Wouldn't want to get blood on those, now would we?
That wins.
Yeah, I mean, I
There should
really
have been
did
a category for like ridiculous use and practical use.
the ridiculously practical use: storing my phone and my cell phone and an olive fork and beating the hell out of someone.
So
And I gotta
Wes has
say,
to send a picture with an olive fork in that thing.
yeah, I gotta say, this thing, it probably is not as heavy as a brick, but it's got some nice little edges on it. You could really do some damage.
In all seriousness, I think Alex's idea is actually kind of cool, is mounting that thing somewhere.
That's when I initially saw it, that's what I was thinking. I was like, where could I mount this that I would like it to be shown off? Because it's got a nice style to it. It's got a very, like mil spec kind of durable, overbuilt sort of look to it. And finding a place to attach it to the bike where it can, like, you can get to it easily, but it's out, kind of to be
So
seen.
we got a lot of people that said for practical use, some sort of small camera or GoPro parts. And I was thinking too that I would actually put one of those like strapped to the top of my bag on the back, the duffel,
Yeah.
just for that reason, for stuff I need to access quickly,
Hmm.
like replacement SD cards, batteries, things like that. I don't want to go digging for,
Yeah.
because it's waterproof, right?
Yep. Completely
Yeah.
waterproof.
All
And
right. Well,
you could go
congratulations,
crazy.
man.
Like, you could even if you mounted this thing to your bike, you could even stick a GoPro mount to it, and like mount your GoPro to it, and then you could have like a little thing and have a giant battery inside, power your GoPro
Right.
for like 48 weeks. But
Yeah.
yeah, so congratulations to Alex and Wes, both loyal Patreon supporters.
Very cool.
So thanks, guys. Thanks to everybody that supported there that submitted. It was really fun to read your responses, and also thanks to all of you that support us on Patreon. You can find us on patreon.com/Cafe Racer Podcast if you'd like to support the show.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it makes stuff like it didn't cover my trip to Mid Ohio or anything, but like that it helped. When we travel, like we're able to do some things that normally would have to come out of pocket, or when we have to buy some equipment or whatever.
And
So
most of the stuff is out of pocket. So
yeah, I mean, if you get value out of the show, we would really appreciate it if you could add some value back in. $1 a month will get you access to our Slack channel and all that. As far as like other administrative notes, with the transition away from Google Hangouts, we may end up transitioning to a different thing than Slack, because but we might end up just using Slack for video Hangouts as well, because apparently that's possible. Um,
we
you
just
can
got to
find
check
us.
into it and find out. Yeah.
Yeah. I've just got to do the research. I know a little bit about it from other people's podcasts, but I need to get in and really understand it before we choose a place to go. Are you are you using the light from your microphone?
I just realized that it's on there. Like I'm like, what
Yeah.
is this blue light? And I'm like, oh,
Yep.
okay.
That's your microphone.
Sorry.
Yeah. My USB one does the same thing. I think it's kind of silly.
Sorry if my audio sucked on this show, just because I don't have my normal setup with me. So
I think you sound fine. So
okay.
that's good. You can find the show at caferacerpodcast.com, youtube.com/Cafe Racer Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, look for Cafe Racer Podcast, Twitter, Cafe Racer Pod. And I think that's about it. I don't have anything else. And I should probably follow my own advice and get out and ride.
See ya.